The Orlando Magic are back to work. What they're focused on as they get ready for the playoff push, plus Wendell Carter's offense taking off, and one offseason rumor is getting some more legs. It's time for Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is February 21st, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the expert and site editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Orlando Magic get back to work as they prepare for something they've never done before, a late season playoff chase. We'll get to that. Plus, we will chat about Wendell Carter since he's returned from injury. And one off-season rumor gets a second pair of legs or something. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started today. The Orlando Magic returned to work on Tuesday. The All-Star break officially over. Everyone back in the gym, back working together, back getting their flow on, but everything is very different. And, we've talked a little bit about it here on the show, but the players are noting how different everything is too. For the first time in many of their careers, Wendell Carter has mentioned this a ton. There are only 4 players on this team with playoff experience, folks. For the first time in many players' careers, they are facing a playoff chase. They are facing the pressure of every game meaning something the rest of the way. Sure, the Orlando Magic were the last team eliminated from playoff contention last year. Sure, the Magic were chasing a play-in spot last season, but they never got closer than 3 games last year. Like I'm all for promoting that stat. I'm all for saying that this team was in the playoff hunt all last year. We talked about it. I kept hope alive. I know a lot of fans did too, but let's be real. The Magic were not serious contenders to catch the Chicago Bulls. They ran out of time. And they didn't get there, obviously. The Bulls ended up finishing 10th, beating Toronto in the 9-10 game, losing to Miami in the 8 game. I guess that's the 8 game. I don't know what exactly to call these games in the playing tournament. But hopefully that's not something the Magic have to worry about, because unlike last year, the Magic are not working to catch up ground. Unlike last year, the Magic are in the driver's seat. And that was a big point that everyone was able to make, is that, we are capable of controlling our own destiny and determining what ends up happening in the playoffs. Just plain and simple. The Magic win all their games the rest of the season. They finish ahead of Indiana. Whether they finish ahead of Miami is another question. That's a little bit out of their control now. But Orlando gets one more game against Indiana. If they go 27-0, they're probably going to finish higher than 6th. But they go 27-0, that gets them to 57 wins. You get the point. The Magic control their own destiny. They're the masters of their own destiny. They're not relying on another team fading. They are exactly where they want to be. And as we've all mentioned, as I know I've mentioned for months now, the schedule over the next 2.5 months, month and a half, whatever, 2 months, whatever it is, sets up really well for the Magic to make up ground in this playoff chase. It sets them up really well to take a really big step forward as a team into true playoff contention. That's what they're going for. So what is that focus then? What are they trying to do? I mean, obviously it starts with taking care of their own business, taking care of themselves. It's about that attention to detail. And if there is a reason to be skeptical of the Magic taking advantage of the schedule they have, it's that they've never done it. I think it's fair to ask, can the Magic win the big games ahead of them? They've never had to do it before. But this is where being able to take a break does help. Or at least the players think it will help. As Jamal Mosley put it, being able to kind of get away, or get away and reset the brain, reset the body, get everyone healthy again. That's really important. It isn't just about the injuries the Magic have faced. They faced a lot of injuries this year. Markelle Fultz is still getting managed. Jonathan Isaac's still being managed. There are a lot of guys still managing injuries, but it's those little knocks. It's Cole Anthony dealing with the quad contusion and needing some time perhaps to get himself right. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about him on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic, what the Magic need to see from him as they get down to this stretch run. It's everyone just needing a moment to take a breath. I know I need it. To take a breath and get themselves ready for this stretch run, because these games are going to be intense. Just warning you, Thursday's game is big. Cleveland is a tough team, number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, playing really, really well. Getting them right out of the All-Star break when some teams might be easing their way back in. This is a time to be intense, be detail-oriented, be ready to go on Thursday evening in Cleveland. This is a road trip, a very, not an easy road trip, but a tricky one. Cleveland's a tough team. Detroit in an 8 o'clock game on Saturday with a back-to-back at Atlanta. Not easy goings here. The Magic are going to have to be ready to go from the start. And having those details down, having the ability to focus in from the start is going to be critical for this team. It's going to be critical for the rest of this journey, the rest of this trip through the postseason. The Magic have to be ready to go, plain and simple. They have to be ready to play. And if they are, they're going to put themselves in good shape, it would seem, to accomplish a lot of their goals. At this point, you should know the standings, but here they are. The Magic are 30-25. They are tied with the Miami Heat for 7th in the East. Miami owns that tiebreaker. They are a half game behind the Indiana Pacers for 6th. They are 2.5 games back of the Philadelphia 76ers for 5th. So still a lot that could get jumbled around here in the Eastern Conference standings. They lead the Chicago Bulls by 4 games, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check that. I don't have the back. I'm not worried about the Bulls behind me because they're so far back. The Magic lead the Bulls by 4 games for 8th. So at the very least, it looks like the Magic will be in that 7-8 game. And that's comforting. Like, again, the Magic are not chasing anything. They have their spot, and barring an absolute collapse, they're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to be in that 7-8 game. They're going to have 2 cracks to make the playoffs. And like I said yesterday, that's really all that matters right now, is getting into the playoffs, getting into a 7-game series. That's the most important thing for this team's growth. So the Magic are back to the job. The break's over. They're putting their work in again. And we're going to see just how ready they are over the next 27 games. And it starts Thursday, obviously, in Cleveland. But these next 27 games are going to be absolutely fascinating to watch, because we're going to see this team mature. We're going to see this team grow. And we're going to see just how good this Magic group can be. One player who has had an up and down season but is starting to come back around. We'll talk about Wendell Carter and how his offense is taking some major steps. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. By the way, the Magic have the best record against the spread in the entire league. They are the best kept secret in the league. The lines don't like them. The bettors doubt them. They should know by now, 30-25, this team is real. They got an all-star. Just a friendly word of advice there. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot today. FanDuel is an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals who are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make that process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process simpler and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. 2 N's there. To post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Go check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel for your next listen. Locked On has launched first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts like me of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. So one of the key factors for the rest of the season is going to be health. Like, plain and simple, this is a Magic team that's dealt with a lot of injuries over the last couple of years. They've dealt with a lot of injuries this year. Being healthy is going to be essential for the Magic to find success this season, for the rest of the season. They know that when they are healthy, they are a very good team. Not just a good team, a very good team. You know, everyone's kind of tried to reset expectations after the team raced out to the hot start. You know, they're, what were they? 13-4 or something like that. When they raced out to that hot start, they were relatively healthy. Like, sure, Wendell Carter, Markelle Fultz are out of lineup, but they had a consistent rotation. You know, they weren't worried about guys being in and out of the lineup. The Magic getting back to that is going to be a big key for the rest of the season. Fortunately, the Magic do seem to be healthy. Like I said, they might still be monitoring minutes for guys like Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, Gary Harris at the moment, but the Magic have their full rotation back, and they've won 6 of their last 8 games. They're playing whatever struggles they were going through in December and January when they were hurt. They seem to be playing a whole lot better now. And that's obviously a great place for this team to start. That's obviously a great place for the Magic to begin growing, begin expanding, begin taking those all-important next steps. So let's focus in on one of those players that's come back, because it's not just about coming back. It's about coming back, staying back, and finding your rhythm. And that's where Wendell Carter has been a little bit trapped this year. Wendell Carter has played only 29 games this season. We're 57 games of the season, so he's missed 28. He's averaging 11.4 points per game. That is the lowest since coming to Orlando. He averaged 10.9 points per game with the Bulls before the trade. He averaged 11.7 after. So we're looking at a much more unsure Wendell Carter. He's averaging 6.5 rebounds per game. He's been struggling, shooting a fine 53.5%. That's actually the best in his career. He's shooting 40.2% from 3, also the best in his career. So there are plenty of signs that he's taken some big steps and that he can contribute. Since returning from injury, however, Wendell Carter has looked more and more like the Wendell Carter we remember. Since coming back from the knee tendonitis, and Carter said Tuesday at practice, that the hand feels good, the knee feels good, the break helped him get healthy. In the 16 games since returning from the knee tendonitis, Wendell Carter's averaging 14.1 points per game, shooting 60.4% from floor, 40% from three on three-point attempts per game, 6.6 rebounds per game. The rebounding is obviously the big concern right now. And I think when a lot of, Wendell Carter is sort of the team's Rorschach test at the moment. You either see him as a great versatile defender who can protect the basket a little bit, can step out and hit threes. You like all that part of him. Or you see him as a center who doesn't protect the rim very well, doesn't play above the rim, can get out muscled and out positioned for rebounds. And, my opinion, he's both. Like, the Rorschach test is true. You see what you want to see in him. He's both. And I think it is an issue that the Magic are going to have to address down the line. I'm still of the belief that let's see what it looks like in the playoffs. Let's see him healthy. Let's see if he can figure out how to improve upon it before we make any big decisions. But the hand might be forced this summer. We'll see. We're going to learn a lot about this team over the next 27 plus games, especially when we get into the playoffs. That kind of stuff matters. So just stay with it here. Wendell Carter's offense has obviously taken a bit of a step up, though. He's starting to play the way we imagined he would play earlier in the season. In fact, just looking at those 16 games, he has only 5 scoring fewer than 10 points. He's got 3 scoring more than 20. He's got another 2 with 18. He is, he may not be super consistent with his offense, but the Magic can rely on him. If teams aren't going to cover him on the perimeter, he's going to make shots. He can bully, kind of the weaker centers in the league around a little bit. Wendell Carter has been really, really good. But all of these concerns remain. He has taken some major steps. He's looking healthier. He's got to be that anchor defensively for the team. He's got to be that anchor for the team in the paint. And I think it's fair to be critical and say he pops too much. That was a criticism of Nikola Vucevic for a long time, that he settles for jumpers. And even if he's making them, that's frankly a win for the defense. Now, him being able to space out to the three-point line, being willing to take threes, that's a big thing for this Magic team, obviously. They need that very badly. They want defenders who can switch, and Wendell Carter's ability to get out on the perimeter is really, really, really important for this team. They're not ready to throw a wrench into a lot of these plans or change things dramatically because obviously the defense is working. And even though Wendell Carter isn't the best defensive player by the numbers, he's still really good. He may not be a great rim protector or classic above the rim shot blocker, but if he gets position on you, he's going to challenge and make life hard. That's the big thing. And so having him be healthy, having him feel good is a humongous boost to this team. It's a humongous lift for this team. And, when we look at this team, we know what Paolo is going to give us. We know what Paolo Banchero is going to give the Magic every single night. 25 points, 5 assists, 6-7 rebounds. We know what we're going to get from him. We know what we're going to get from Franz Wagner. Another 20 points, potential for more, attacking. We know that. The X factors for this team, what's going to determine whether they climb up to 6, whether they can get to 5, whether they can compete in a first-round series, it's going to be Jalen Suggs and Wendell Carter. Those two players are critical to the Magic having success. And they are two players who are the most inconsistent offensively. So to see Carter string together more consistent shooting, the scoring isn't consistent yet. You look at his last 5 games. He had 15 points in the loss to the Heat down in Miami. That game was a complete wash. He had 10 points in the win over the Spurs, 6 in the win over the Bulls that was not a very good game for him. Answered with 22 against Oklahoma City. Again, a game that he was +2, by the way, in a game that the Magic lost fairly handily. And then 9 points in the win over the Knicks. The team is winning, so they're getting what they need from him now. But the Magic need more consistency from him. They need to know who that third option is going to be. And again, by committee, I know all that stuff that Jamal Mosley likes to say. It is kind of what the defense gives you. But Wendell Carter is going to be a big factor these final 27 games. And the Magic are going to need a little bit more from him and a little bit more consistency from him on offense to get where they want to go. That's going to be a consistent theme for the rest of the season. It's also going to be a consistent theme in the offseason because one trade rumor or one offseason rumor is starting to get some more legs than just someone spouting off at the mouth. We'll talk about that rumor. You can see who it is right over there. If you're watching on YouTube, we'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, a quick word for our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With more than 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. It is February. It is after the All-Star break. Frankly, the offseason is the last thing I'm thinking about at this point. You know, this is my favorite time of the year because I hate rumor mill season. Transactions are important. I don't ignore it, but I love games. I want to watch games. We're in the middle of a playoff chase. Yes, we're thinking about the future and what this team needs to ask and answer about the future, but a lot of those questions get answered on the court first and foremost. Let's look at what's happening on the court. And then we'll get to June, July, and start answering some of those questions. June and July, they're not so far off, but they're still pretty far off. And we've got a lot of information to learn over the next 27 games. However, we do know that this Magic team has needs. I've listed them before. It's shooting. We think that they're going to be targeting a point guard this offseason. We think that, I mentioned the Wendell Carter thing. A rim protecting center probably wouldn't be the worst idea. I think the team needs to add another veteran, get a little bit older, a little bit more consistent. There are a lot of things this team needs to add, and they'll probably work on it piecemeal. I'm not expecting the team to go out and address every single box that they have to tick in one offseason. It's going to be gradual. They're going to let players grow. They're going to see what guys learn from the playoffs. It's going to be a steady process. There is, however, one rumor that is been reported now by two different reporters that does deserve some consideration or some thought. Shams Charania of The Athletic and Stadium was on the Pat McAfee show over the weekend or late last week. I wouldn't say over the weekend because they don't record on the weekend, but last week, and said, Klay Thompson did not come to an agreement with the Golden State Warriors for an extension. He clearly wants a big-time extension. They paid Draymond Green 4 years, $100 million. He wants something more than that, it would appear. And so Shams said, it sounds like he's going to test the market, and the two Florida teams and the two Los Angeles teams would appear to have some interest. I saw that. I was like, okay, that makes sense. Magic needs shooting. They got some money to spend. Okay, dots connected. File that in the back of your mind. We'll get to it after the season. Then Mark Stein in his Tuesday report says, while he expects, and I would agree with Mark Stein here, while he expects Klay Thompson to remain a Golden State Warrior and retire a Golden State Warrior, let me get the exact wording here. Orlando has been increasingly mentioned as a potential suitor for Thompson in free agency. There you go. So that's now two separate reporters linking Klay Thompson to the Orlando Magic. And like I said, at this stage, everything's dot connecting. Like Magic need a shooter. Klay Thompson's probably the best shooter on the free agent market. If the Magic want to spend some money, that's a place to spend it. And I'm not going to, even though Klay Thompson has not had the greatest year in the world this year, as I've always said, shooting is as much about your reputation as a shooter and how defenses treat you as a shooter as it is your actual ability to make shots. You bring Klay Thompson in, the gravity on the floor changes completely. Maybe the Magic have to run some different sets and figure out a different way to play to involve him, but Klay Thompson changes the gravity on the floor for the Orlando Magic immeasurably, even if he is not a super duper star anymore. The dot connecting also works because the Magic do have a lot of cap room this offseason. The cap room could be anywhere from like $45 to $50 million to $20, $25 million. Even if the Magic retain Jonathan Isaac, which I expect that they will do, Joe Ingles, Marco, all the team options they have, even if they retain those players, Mo Wagner as a team option, I believe, as a non-guarantee, they still will have north of $20 million of cap room. The Magic are one of 4 teams in the league this summer that's going to have enough cap room to sign a max free agent. There's not many of them. There's not a lot of free agents worth signing for a max, and that could be one of the things going on here. In all likelihood, especially at this stage, the Magic don't leak anything to anybody. The Magic probably don't, the Magic are probably discussing free agent plans at this point, but I don't think they're set in stone. This other part of this, and we've seen this a million times, the Magic, because they have cap room, are the boogeyman. They have cap room, they have a competent front office, they have a team that players might want to join. The Magic are the boogeyman. And I think a lot of Magic fans, correctly sniffed this rumor out as saying, this is Klay Thompson's agent creating a market for him to make Golden State a little bit scared. Golden State has until June 30th to sign him to an extension. I fully expect them to agree to an extension before he hits free agency. Klay Thompson is not leaving Golden State. But it is nice to dream. It is nice to think that Klay Thompson is available. And frankly, it isn't as crazy as it sounds. You offer him like a 2-year, $50 million deal, something short term because he isn't quite on the Magic's timeline. You could get him. And, at that point, you are adding a player that does make a very big impact. Now, those kinds of deals, look, the Magic gave $11 million a year to Joe Ingles, so it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that they overpay for a free agent on a short-term deal. They've done it before. At that level, maybe not. At a point when the Magic are probably in their last summer of spending monopoly money, of having unlimited resources and cap room, getting a player on a big salary isn't the worst thing in the world. You need big numbers to trade if you want to trade down the line. That's one of the reasons why you re-sign Cole Anthony. It's one of the reasons why I don't think it's crazy for them to get a 2-year deal for Markelle Fultz either, to keep short-term deals just to have big salaries to move around. Now, again, I agree with you. The Magic cannot bring back the same roster. They're going to learn what they need to learn, but they need to start growing and expanding and improving personnel on this team to fit the vision that they have. Does Klay Thompson fit that? I don't know. I look at this rumor and I don't think it's crazy. That is how I would categorize it. I've thought about it too. I won't deny it. Before this report came out, I don't think it's a crazy thing to ponder and wonder. I don't think it's going to happen though. I think the Magic are indeed being used as a boogeyman once again, as a team with money to throw around that could steal him if Golden State doesn't play ball with Klay Thompson's agent. Having said that, at some point the Magic are going to pull the trigger on a big deal, whether that's a trade, whether that's a free agent. They're going to put some chips into the middle. They've been afraid to do that at this point, and that's why we still have the roster that we have instead of maybe adding a piece at the deadline. I get why they didn't. I don't think there was, I think all the moves that were available to them at the deadline appeared to be lateral moves and not moves that meaningfully transform this team for the next 2 to 4 years. Klay Thompson would certainly transform this team for the next 2 years, but is that the timeline the Magic are working on? We're going to find out in July. At this point, it's just kind of idle thinking and professional dot connecting because we got work to do to finish this season first. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google, Spotify, Odyssey, and all Film Channel podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can, of course, find us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. Be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub for extra content too. And as always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done listening to us, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel. You can find that on YouTube, as well as now on the Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. On tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic, we'll hear from Magic once again as they get ready for their 3-game road trip. We'll talk about we'll get to it. We'll talk about the precarious position Cole Anthony finds himself in and plenty more. We'll get to that on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.